is here. We are redefining what it means to sit at the girls' table. Hey everybody, you're listening to The Girls Table, and today I am so excited to have Michelle Reeves, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mavion. And Mavion combines physical fashion accessories such as earrings, rings, jewelries, bags with digital assets. And prior to this, Michelle created the world's first touch trademark for wine and actually met Gary Vee. It seems like you guys are on the same path in life. But anyway, Michelle, thank you so much for being here today and sitting down at the girls' table. I just want to start off if you could give a quick little background about yourself.
Oh, hi. Well, Alana, thank you so much for having me. I love the girls' table. All the best things happen at the girls' table. And I'm really excited to see what everyone is going to be doing as we keep growing in Web3. My background, as you mentioned, actually wasn't in tech. It was in the world of wine. And before that was in sports and entertainment, which I think speaks to how exciting Web3 can be, where we're bringing all this diversity of experience to the table and coming together to create new things like Mavion NFTs.
Wow, that is awesome. And I just want to start off, like, obviously I look at you now, you're so successful, you're starting Mavion. I think the first time I saw you, you really walked into an event and I was like, oh my God, I love your outfit. You look absolutely amazing. So what was your first job before you started any of this, started the wine trademark, started everything?
So my first job was with an economics firm. I was helping to do like town planning and looking at, how do we best maximize a city's resources? That was my job my first real job outside of, hourly jobs in high school, but that was my first job out of college, just to help pay the bills and work in a professional capacity. And then I started working at the Sydney Olympic Games doing sports sponsorship back in 2000. And that was what really, I think, set my career into the course that it is today. And I left Australia and I moved to the US in search of, all things that the wonderful city of New York can bring.
And I guess when you were starting out in your career, what did you think you would be growing up?
I used to have this whiteboard from the age of 14 that was next to my desk at home, and it was a huge space that would just be filled with open a restaurant, learn to sail, own Manchester United. I mean, at 16, I thought that that's exactly what I was put on this earth to do. Start a media company. I had all these ideas of things that I just wanted to do, and I was so curious. And I think that hunger to learn and that curiosity has just never left me. And as I reflect back on all of the points of my career, I've worked across so many different industries: sports, fashion, tech, entertainment, science, you name it.
And it's so interesting to hear where you started and looking at where you're at right now. And when you got into crypto and Web3, like, what was your aha moment? And when did you first really dive into the space?
So I first got into crypto in 2016. I definitely preface that I am sadly not a Bitcoin billionaire. I had some skin in the game, but not that much. But enough where it really made me pay attention. I wanted to keep learning. And back then in 2016, it was rare to come across people who were openly talking about the space. Nobody was talking about Bitcoin at dinner parties. So if you did meet somebody, you really connected quickly and you built this very, very organic network of friends or professionals in Web3 or in crypto that you would share information with and learn about. I'd say in 2020, my Web2 company, which is called The Accessory Junkie, was accepted into a program called Techstars. And I remember sitting there with my co-founder at Techstars, and we were talking about how can we scale scarcity. We have all these limited edition fashion items being made by hundreds of talented independent designers around the world. But in Web2, the only way to scale is to mass produce. We don't want to mass produce. How can we scale scarcity? And so we started talking about the idea of gaming. And back then, Web3 was pretty much just known as gaming and gaming assets and digital assets. And when and how could we create this model that would be appropriate for the consumer? Well, back in February 2020, which seems like a million years ago, the consumer wasn't ready for that. was far too early. And so we just tabled that model and that thinking to the side. We thought maybe in 2 or 3 years, gaming and digital assets will be relevant. Flash forward, a pandemic, and the consumer is here. She and he are deep in discussion about NFTs, digital assets, you name it. And so that's where we describe it as taking the next logical step in Web3. There wasn't this aha, all of a sudden the world has changed. It was something that we've been waiting for 4 years.
And thinking back to 2020, when you guys first, I guess, had the conversation at Techstars, like that's early for this space. So that's really interesting that you even saw then kind of the use cases that you could have for Web3. And today I really want to hone in for the people who don't even know, like we're saying Web3 a lot. What even is Web3?
So Web3 is a whole new paradigm of thinking. It's a technology built on blockchain. So to go technical for a moment, Web2 is e-commerce, meaning there are servers that companies are using or owning to create a set of rules. You can buy something, I can sell something. You can post something, I can comment or share that information, that content. So the server hosts all of those behaviors that we're allowed to do in Web2. In Web3, there are no servers. It's all built on nodes. And these nodes are computers run by millions of people around the world working independently together to constantly verify information. So a great way to think about it is it's like a Lego tower. And every time an action is taken in blockchain for Web3, it is putting a Lego brick on that tower. And it's really cool because there's no rules that say what you can or can't do. It's constantly about authenticating what you've done. And that is where we're seeing so much incredible innovation in the space for what can be done when we say goodbye to the boundaries of these servers and rules that existed in Web 2.
So I just wanted to ask, like, why do we care about this, right? Like, it sounds interesting. There's no middleman involved. Everybody has it. But why do we care? How does this affect us?
I mean, Web3 is the authenticator, and NFTs are the truth tellers that can only exist in Web3. And we should care for a lot of reasons. But let's take some just use cases that we can kind of picture today. Let's take the government. Right now, we all pay our taxes, and those tax dollars go to the government, and they decide where those dollars go. Should 12% go to public health, 11% go to utilities, 25% goes to education, whatever it is. We don't actually know where those dollars go. We hear the report, we read the headlines, and we have to have faith that that's exactly what happened. With Web3, with blockchain technology, we can see with full transparency and 100% accuracy what is going on and when. We would be able to see where every single dollar is being spent, by who, how, where, and when, at any given moment in real time. That kind of transparency is totally game-changing for a number of reasons. One, of course, consumer access to public information. For brands, particularly sustainable brands, I think about greenwashing in fashion. How many times do we hear these headlines of big brands doing the sustainable green thing? Are they? I don't know. But in blockchain, in Web3, we can see with clarity what the product's provenance is, where the product was coming from, with complete certainty of how those practices, the shipping, the carbon footprint, the manufacturing was all done because of this kind of technology in Web3. So I think the transparency is game-changing from a consumer side, but also for your own gain. I always talk about how Web3 and your crypto wallet will be more important than your LinkedIn profile. You know, right now, LinkedIn, you can say anything you want. I could go in there and say that I'm the CMO of Nike. Nike can't change that. They couldn't take it down. But in my crypto wallet, there will be NFTs and SBTs, which are soul-bound tokens, meaning that these are digital tokens that are assigned to me that clarify and authenticate my education, my career, and you'll be able to see, am I really the CMO of Nike? No, I'm not. You'll be able to see who is. And you'll be able to see my education, the internships I've had, the careers I've had, everything from travel, healthcare, events I've been to. They will all be stored in our crypto wallets, so you will see exactly who we all are. You will judge others, and others will judge you, just like we already do in Web 2.
Yeah, and one use case I say as well is like my health records. Why don't I own my health records, and why can't I verify that I'm the owner of my health records? So right now I go to a doctor. I'm from New Jersey originally, and I have my doctors there. I moved out to California, and in order to get it, I need to send a letter to my old doctor. They need to fax it over to the new doctor, and then they officially have it. And I've gone to my doctors before and they didn't have my records and I had to reschedule. And it's like, okay, but if I could just verify that I'm the owner and actually own my own health records, then I could easily just send it to them. So it's crazy to think how many use cases there are. And like, I love the one you mentioned. Yeah, I love the one you mentioned about LinkedIn, because I could really go say I went to Harvard. I did not go to Harvard, but I could easily say it. And who are you to tell me that I didn't? So
it's exactly it. It authenticates ownership across everything: health, travel. Think about your visas when you use your passport, permits, healthcare, relationship status, birth, identity. All your personal identity has a real utility when it's stored in blockchain through NFTs and through your crypto wallet. So that should streamline a lot of how we move forward, particularly as the world becomes even more globally connected. You know, we need to have these globally recognized systems for things like vaccinations too. You know, I'm coming from Australia. My vaccination card sometimes is accepted in other countries and sometimes it's kind of questioned. So to have these centralized systems can also really help with that authentication of what blockchain can do.
Now, even just thinking about either your health records, you said travel, like when do you see this happening? Because to me, it seems like it's going to be so long realistically before everybody utilizes all the capabilities that Web3 has.
I think you'd be surprised that it's already happening in so many industries. I was speaking with some farmers out here in Australia who are already using it to authenticate organic milk. And there are so many back-end uses, I think, already taking shape that we don't even know of yet. So I think it's going to creep up and happen far more quickly than many of us even realize.
Yep, definitely. So I'm also wondering, so we think about Web3, we obviously explain that, and then we hear the terms NFTs. We hear about crypto. Where do all of these fall? Like if you're thinking about what it falls under, how does this really work?
So it's a funny question to ask without having a bigger conversation. Like, what is an NFT? I get that question in my DMs all the time. I'll post content, I'll get 6 or 7 questions right away. So what's this NFT thing? I'm like, this is not a DM conversation. So yes, simply put, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. The tricky thing about Web3 is it's not difficult, but it's not intuitive. Nobody said the word fungible until 2021. I mean, what does that word even mean? So fungible, let's talk about that, because that's a word where this sweater that I'm wearing, I bought it from a store, there was a pile of 10 of them. It didn't matter which one I got, as long as I got the one in my size. So if I reached to grab the medium in my size and somebody else reached to grab another medium, it didn't matter. This is totally fungible, it's transferable. I don't mind which one of the mediums I end up with. But non-fungible would be things like my cell phones. I have my Australian cell phone and my US phone. These are not equally transferable. One has information that the other one does not. So yes, they're still cell phones, but they have different value to the different holder of me in different times when I'm in different countries. So the same thing applies for NFTs. The examples I just gave, though, were non-fungible tangibles. We're talking about sweater and cell phone. An NFT is a non-fungible token. So that's anything that can be digitized. We saw huge popularity with digitized NFTs of art. But there's so much more than that. When we say that anything can be digitized, it could be audio, it could be a video file, it could be a QR code that unlocks a password so that you have access to an exclusive hotel anytime you travel. It could be a confirmation code to a flight so that you can go and watch your favorite soccer team play in the finals in Europe. You can really activate so many real-life experiences through an NFT, because all it's doing is it's giving you authenticated ownership that you are the only one. Yes, you can see this NFT, you can screenshot it, but it doesn't mean you get access to go into that event or to into that hotel or have access to any of the benefits that the actual owner of the NFT will have.
Now, how does that relate to Web3?
I mean, that is Web3. NFTs can only exist because Web3 came about. And I talk about this a lot where, if NFTs were so exciting, why weren't we talking about them in 2025? Why now? Why is it so exciting now? It's because it requires blockchain technology. NFTs can't exist in Web 2 because Web 2 are those servers that I mentioned. And those servers are manipulated and changed constantly by the people, the companies who own them. They can copy, they can delete information, they can change it. So you can't authenticate or certify anything in Web 2. In Web 3, blockchain is three things. It is transparent. As I mentioned before, you can see everything happening in blockchain in real time. And it is absolutely immutable. Immutable, another word we never said before 2021, means you can't copy, edit, or delete anything. So once it's on the blockchain, it is there forever. So when we're talking about having an NFT that certifies that you are the owner and you are going to get access to go to this cool party or event because you're the only one that has the confirmation code to do so, it is 100% safe to know that that is only yours. You are the owner. And the third thing about Web3, I mentioned those three pillars, is it's decentralized. So this anonymity across all the nodes working together. There's no collusion. It's completely decentralized. And so all these anonymous parts are working together to validate and verify things before they're even entered into the blockchain itself.
Well, I love that example. Also, I could see why you couldn't go ahead and send that in a Twitter DM.
Yes, it's impossible.
And then you touched on decentralization a little. So I'm just wondering, what are you most excited about? A lot of people have heard of DAOs. Maybe if you could touch on that a little. So decentralized autonomous organizations and what excites you about it. And then what is also some of the drawbacks and what scares you a little bit about it?
I think we're still seeing the beginning of what DAOs can do. I love actually seeing a lot of NFT projects incorporating that into their model because it does bring in the community. Those DAOs are not run by any one person or authority. They are often community owned. And that is a great way think about it today. Right now, we go to Apple, we spend all of our money on, Apple's latest iPhones and updates. And it's great to see that company succeed because we all rely heavily on their MacBook Airs and phones, etc. But we have no say. We can't tell Apple what to do, and our opinions never matter. We just hope that we love the upgrades every time they come out. And often we do, but there's also usually some bugs, and again, nothing we say really changes that. But with NFTs and DAOs, there are ways that the community now can have a voice. You can have a voice in things that they invest in. And those investments can take on any number of forms. It could be other NFTs. It could be other initiatives. It could be third-party charitable organizations. There's just a greater way for a bigger community to get behind any project. So I'm definitely no DAO expert, but we are only seeing the beginning of what is possible in that space.
100%. I think the same with tokenomics. When you think about these people that are giving back to the community, they're voting, you finally have rights. And then by actually using the product and being an early adapter, then you go ahead and get tokens. So there's so many use cases of Web3, of NFTs. And obviously we mentioned right now you're starting Mavion. So I just want to jump into that a little bit. What is your main goal with Mavion?
To completely revolutionize how we bridge the fashion world in the real world and the metaverse. Right now, there's so much confusion and resistance from mainstream consumers to dive into the metaverse. It sounds scary. It sounds unknown. It sounds like a whole new life that you're supposed to build in this thing called the metaverse that you can't see, touch, or even understand yet. So for us, we look at something like fashion as being the ultimate bridge to show how these worlds can connect and how we can actually transform real world lives. This is not about taking you out of your everyday and making you do something new. It's about actually adding real benefits to your current day-to-day. And we do this on many sides. So let's take it from our designer's perspective. Right now, we work with 16 independent designers from 9 different countries who are in our Mavion NFTs. Every NFT features one of their limited edition accessories. Their accessories are beautiful from Greece, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, you name it. But they're really small production. So in Web 2, to really grow their business, they would have to stop hand making them and need to start manufacturing those in fashion factories. That's not what they want to do. It compromises the quality, the design. It's not the business that they're running. So how do you scale that kind of scarcity? You attach digital assets. So while those designers might only make 50 of a necklace, we can now, through an NFT, create digital assets of that necklace and sell millions of units. And those are being sold in gaming, for your avatars, in various forms. And those independent designers are now getting royalties from all of those units sold. So now they've made 50 real earrings. They're driving in perpetuity royalties from all these gaming assets. They're reaching a global audience, and they're really seeing their products take on a new dimension. We're hopeful that this is the path forward for every independent designer, where they can turn those side hustles of their core talent into full-blown livelihoods. Right now, all of our designers talk about how this is their side job because 50 necklaces is not a career. But with Web3, this will totally transform how they can grow and scale in ways that were never possible. And on the flip side, for our holders of those NFTs, right now, if you go and buy any fashion item, we kind of joke, and we've seen the memes that it's, it's an investment. This Celine handbag, totally investment. Is it though? Who's making money on that bag? Celine, not you. So this is a way where you've got your Mavion NFT, and it's really your mini Web3 retail empire, because those earrings or that necklace featured in your NFT are being featured in games, and those royalties are going to the independent designer, but also to you. You are the holder, that is your asset. You will get royalties in perpetuity for as long as you hold on to that NFT from all of those collaborations. And it's more than just the earring, ring, or necklace in your NFT. It's the hair color, the makeup, the background, the clothing. Mavion is about activating all those layers in the artwork so that they will have their own collaborations, and you, the holder, will continue to drive revenue from those royalties. And I think for our audience, who are predominantly female, this is the game-changing moment that we're excited about, because we know that women have the least amount of time. We have, we're usually the ones who are working multiple jobs while studying, while being the primary caregiver for a family member. So to have a JPEG go to work for you every day and drive income for you, that is real generational wealth that can change the course of your future and pass down to future generations as well.
Yeah, and I think passive income is so important. Also, I'm still holding my Mavion. Really, the day that I met you, I bought it, so I love it. We talked about some of the primary NFT use cases for fashion brands right now. Are there any other ones that you see in the future?
Yeah, I think for even just digital, what we're seeing is at some point the digital version of fashion is going to be more valuable than the physical. I'll use my son as a great example. He's 9, and we were shopping a few months ago. He walked past the Balenciaga store, and the fact that he even knew how to say it was shocking to me. Mom,
I don't know if I do.
And I thought, okay, well, I mean, yes, you articulated that beautifully. Let's go into Balenciaga. What's going on? And we walked in. He walked straight up to the sales team and asked them for their Fortnite T-shirts. And they were so excited. They came in and shared all the T-shirts that they had done as a collaboration with Fortnite. And he was trying on all these T-shirts. And I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, how am I going to tell my son that he's not walking out of here with a $600 T-shirt? So it turns out I didn't even have to, because he asked them, okay, if I get this white t-shirt or the yellow t-shirt, do I also get the white skin or the yellow skin for Fortnite? And the team said, no, this is just the shirt. And he was completely despondent and confused. Like, why? Why would I want this t-shirt? Like, you don't actually give me the skin with this? Oh, no, you can keep your t-shirt. I'm going to go back and get the skin. And the value is just already there. It's so inherent for our next generation. They're so native in Web3. NFTs do not sound foreign to them. They hear us talk about it. It's on the news all the time. And the idea of owning digital assets, that's all they want. If you go and ask any 10-year-old boy or girl, ask them what they want for Christmas, birthdays, holidays, they want some kind of Nintendo, Roblox, digital card. They don't want actual physical goods. So the future is definitely set forward, that we are going to have a huge reliance and growth opportunity for digital assets across fashion, across homewares, you name it.
That's so crazy to me. But then I also see it, right? Like, I work in VC. I'm an investor in Genies. Like, we're investing in these avatar brands where I could just see this next generation cares more about what they look like in the digital world than what they look like in the physical world, because you have this image of yourself and you're able to make this digital avatar look any way that you want. But I think that's so crazy with your son.
It really is. And I'll give you some alpha on this too. We wholeheartedly believe in exactly what you just said. So for our Mavion NFTs, our Genesis collection, we look at them truly as the avatars and the beings of the future. So we have a massive fashion collaboration that we're announcing during NFT NYC. And you will only be able to mint that if you have a Mavion. And the reason for it is because you will attach that fashion collaboration NFT to your Mavion and start growing your Mavion's closet. And so your Mavion will actually be able to go and earn money for you in different revenue opportunities of the future.
Wow, that is so exciting. I can't wait to hear more, because you are doing so much for NFT New York City. What was your biggest challenge after starting Mavion?
Learning with the space as it grows. I think in Web 2, you have your platforms pretty established and the consumers are in places where you know how to go find them. In Web 3, particularly in fashion, it's still growing into itself. It's mostly men in the space, as we know. 90% of crypto owners are male. So to build a female audience, we have to onboard them ourselves. And that education was a part of our plan. It wasn't enough just to build our own model and create our own NFTs to launch. It was also about creating our own education platform to make sure that women in particular had a safe place to come and land, to learn and to feel empowered in a space that felt very foreign to them. And rightly so. In doing so, we spent all of March on the road, onboarding and talking to women. We did 27 days of events. We helped open over 2,000 wallets, and we heard time and time again women describe how they totally understand NFTs, they get that it's going to be a thing, but why should they go there? There's nothing that's interesting to them. They're looking for things that they are interested in their real life, also in NFTs. They want travel, fashion, beauty, family. Those are still developing. We've got tons of male interests being met in the space, and obviously makes sense. That's the majority of the audience. But until we have more capital and more infrastructure going in to build Web3 initiatives that really hit female interests, it's going to be a slow build to bring women in because there's nothing here for them yet. So we're doing everything we can to really pave the way forward in the fashion category. And I'm really excited that we have such a growing, fantastic community in that space. But there's plenty of other categories to go across beauty, health, wellness, family, you name it.
And what do you usually say to the crypto skeptic, people who maybe you are trying to teach all these women about why they should care, why they should get involved, but what do you say to them if they just don't understand it? They don't understand the value of these virtual assets.
There's probably a difference of someone who doesn't understand it and has a curiosity to learn versus someone who doesn't understand it and is resistant. If they're resistant, that you can't force someone to want to understand the space. It does take a minute to peel back the layers and explain how all these new parts, all this new language comes together. As I said before, it's not hard, but it's definitely not intuitive. So that person needs to be a willing participant in the conversation. For people who are genuinely curious, trying to understand how they can invest, how they can create, how they can buy NFTs, those end up being some of the most engaged conversations. It actually fuels my energy even more so. And they often end up being these mini brainstorms as you see the aha moment click over for these people. They understand now what Web3 can do. They're starting to think about their own business or their own investment strategies. And now you're having a highly engaged conversation about what's next. What could we do? And I love those discussions. But I'd say I always kind of preface everything with, you're at the very, very early stage, which has benefits and some challenges. Benefits being get in early and be someone who shapes where this goes. There are no rules here. And if you've got something to contribute, you can create impact. Doesn't matter where you came from, your background, your education. If you have good ideas win in Web3, not just big marketing budgets. So go for it. The challenge, of course, is you're early. So you're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting to help spread that educational message and explain that to your core audience or to others so that they can understand what is happening here.
Yeah, and there's no denying that there is a huge gap between women and men in this space. And I'm just wondering, why do you think that is? And you mentioned a little bit about education, but what do you think it's really going to take to help bridge this gap?
Yeah, we wrote a whole report on this very topic. I will tell you that women are very eager to learn, and when they take that first step, they take the next 99 steps. They're all in. What holds them back are two things. One, not knowing where to start. Very few NFT educators or projects are meeting them where they are, which is in Instagram DMs and in real life. So that's why we spend most of our time hosting events, and I'm always in my DMs 24/7 to answer those kinds of questions as best as I can. The second thing is, we heard from so many women, and we saw it firsthand, it can take two male-dominant crypto bro for our voices to silence a room of 100 women. If you have a room full of allies and welcome minds trying to learn with absolute curiosity, every single person, male or female, will walk out of there empowered and more knowledgeable than when they began. But if you add those two know-it-all personalities, which we all know and have been a part of those conversations, those two voices cripple the learning of 100 women in that space. So really creating, what we call a safe space for people to come and feel welcomed and not feel like they've been left behind, and to acknowledge every question with purpose and intention, and to create smaller workshops. It's not enough to have these huge, big conferences and forums. You can learn big trends and kind of the macro view as to what's being built here. But when you have these smaller, call it 25 people or fewer groups, you can really meet them where they are. Get a temperature read on what they're interested in, what their level of education is, and actually answer their questions. It's a slow build, but it's the most effective way to create an engaged audience, because I'll tell you, those 25 people will leave and go on board 3 or 4 people each, and then those 3 or 4 people will do the same thing. So there's no easy way to fast track quality education. It just is.
And where do you first point people if they're new to the space? They don't even know. There's so much noise. You don't even know where to get started. Where's the first place that you tell people to go?
First of all, go and update your feeds. So I have a whole list of people and news feeds to just put in your Twitter and your Instagram so that you start to just see the headlines. You've got to just change your landscape a little to see the words and see the faces of different people, and then find the people that connect to you, because the only way you're going to listen is if you find someone who you care about. So I can't say that there's any one person that's going to make this easy for you. Some people love, I love Crypto Casey. Others love Gary Vee. Others love BFF. You've got to find someone or some place that makes it feel relevant to what you're wanting to build or how you're wanting to be involved in the space, so that those examples of how they're doing it can actually resonate.
Yeah. I think it's so true. Like, you need to find your person. And for me, when I first jumped into the space, I found one person who really answered all my questions, would get on the phone with me, would really explain it to me. And I think for me, it was like, find that person. And then once you have that person, and once it starts clicking and you have that aha moment, then it's like, okay, I jumped on Twitter. And as you mentioned, I followed people that I liked, and I slowly built a circle around people that really just inspired me in the space. And
it is. You've got to find that person. So in December of last year, I realized I took for granted the knowledge I had, and I realized my friends weren't talking about this as much as I thought they should be. So I posted a simple Insta story to my personal Instagram, which my Instagram is literally my friends and family. And I was like, hey, who needs a friendly Web3 NFT 101? I'll do a Zoom. And I had about 600 people from all over the world slide into my DMs, give me their email, and be like, can I join this? Can I join this? And I realized this is huge. The interest is huge, but the access to education is non-existent. So I spent the next 6 weeks doing weekly Zooms. I connected with over 2,500 people through December and January, trying to be everyone's NFT buddy. I'm like, I will be here, whatever you need. I want to help you open wallets, or if you've got questions, I'll be your person. And it was, you've got to have that one friend that you can screenshot something to be like, what does this mean? Or should I click this? Is this a scam? Or is this how this works? Am I supposed to do it this way? You just need somebody to say a quick yes, no, let me check something. And I feel like I've got all these graduates now as my NFT buddies from December and January have now gone off and they're helping others. So yes, couldn't agree more. NFT buddies for the win.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, asking that person if you should click a link. Usually I'd say, don't click a link, whatever it is.
You have to ask.
Oh, 100%. If you even need to question it, don't do it. So, well, I just want to ask, if you could sit next to anybody at the girls' table, who would it be?
You. I'm sitting next to you, Alana. That's where I'm staying, here at the girls' table. First of all, to go back to when we first met, you do have this magnetic force field around you. I was so glad that I walked into that event when I did. I think that it's great to be at the center of curiosity, and I think that you have this natural, beautiful, open mind for learning and expanding what people can do here, and I love to be in that orbit because I don't think anyone will ever just make it and accomplish it all. There's always room to innovate, refine, start again, see what's going on. And I love being surrounded by people like yourself.
Oh my God, making my day. Well, then you're going to have to sit next to me at the dinner table next Tuesday, I think it is. So
Done.
And then last question, or just any last minute advice you have for the listeners today?
Look, I always talk about the benefits for women or minorities who didn't get access to the capital, the resources and infrastructure that Web 2 had. This is your chance. This is the breakthrough year for women in particular. If you have an idea, go. Do not wait to get everything perfect. Find the allies, the community that believes in you, build your community, and start making progress in this space. This is still a little bit of a first mover advantage, but we're closing that. And it's changing very quickly. How we launched Mavion in March would not be how I would recommend people launch any NFT in July. And come October, it'll be different again. So get your gold standards in place, get your allies and partners and community going, and just jump in.
And I know I said that was the last question, and I love that, but I have to ask, so what would you do differently? You mentioned that, because I know a lot of people probably listening today, they want to start their own, right? They want to jump in. They're scared, as most people are. So what changed since when you first started, and anything you tell them if they're trying to start their own project here as well?
I think a couple of things. Discord, for example, we did Discord last. We really wanted to bridge the Web2 consumer and bring them in. I think Discord now, there's more people. It doesn't seem as new and foreign. People are talking about it. So I would say don't launch Discord as your last thing. Now launch Discord as your first thing. And really start to educate and bring people in earlier. I would say, for us back in March, we aligned to maybe 3 or 4 partners. Today, the space is so saturated, you need like 30 or 40 partners. You need a tremendous number of people and other NFT brands supporting you to rally behind your credibility and your story. You absolutely need utility. Yes, if you're an artist, art is totally separate, but if you are a business launching an NFT, you cannot be launching an NFT for the sake of it. It needs to solve a real problem. I believe we were one of the first ones to do that. Our NFTs were created to solve the problems that Web2 couldn't. And what we're seeing now are the NFTs who launched as PFPs earlier this year without utility. They're struggling trying to find ways to commercialize what they've got in their model because they didn't build it in from the beginning. So you must absolutely build in a utility and a use case with specific value drivers from day one. That is just a non-negotiable. You do not talk to me in my DMs about a PFP with a cool new trait. That is not a successful future ahead for you.
I love that, and I 1,000,000% agree. I think utility above all, and then community as well, because I think having a community in Web3 is so important. And as you mentioned, it's never too early to start building one. I'd say if you're thinking about doing a project that has utility, start today. Send it to friends, start to build out that community, because eventually that's going to be one of the most important parts.
It is. And I would say the final thing, this is really important too, that in terms of building community, there's 3 stages of your story, and you need to tell an epic story across all 3. So the first is pre-launch. Pre-launch is, why do you exist? What is that problem that your NFTs are solving? The utility, who's your team? What's your background, your story? It could be interesting, it could be creative, whatever your background is, it's unique in itself. There's a great story there. If there is an art component to it, what's interesting about the art, but really introducing this epic story of why you are here in the first place and should be being paid attention to. The second part of your story is the actual launch. We are still early. Your launch story needs to be about how. What is the education that you need to make sure that people know how to mint your NFT with ease? Is there a special kind of is there a unique currency that they have to have, a specific wallet they need to open? What are the how-tos to make minting your NFT as simple as possible? And then post-launch. Your post-launch story begins the minute that you have sold out of your mint. And don't worry about minting out overnight. That is just such nonsense that doesn't define anything other than just cool. You minted out overnight. The real work begins after the fact. In fact, I speak to a lot of founders who minted out quickly, and they're spending now all their time cleaning up the community because they got the wrong people in who don't align to the mission, who are not understanding what the utility and value is, so they're completely tanking their floor. So really think about your mint mindfully as you build the community in that second stage. Post-launch is all about deliverables. What are you delivering now? You've minted out. What's the fun stuff? How are you driving all the success that you said you would? And take your community on that journey with you as you hit and achieve every single one of them. As you launch events, as you launch products, as you're testing, whatever beta program you have, really creating this ongoing story that should last into the next 100 years as this community supports and is the champion for your NFT.
I think people forget in this space, it's not a marathon, or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. You can launch as many NFTs as you want, but you only get one chance to build a Genesis collection community. And that community will set the culture and the tone for everything you do moving forward. Get that part right. Take as long as you need on that part. And I cannot stress that enough. There are projects that have minted out and have thousands of holders. They cannot get the brand partnerships or the deals they want because their community actually doesn't represent anything. It's so fragmented. They don't have a solid core from which they can connect any of their deliverables to. And that is undermining everything that they had set in place. And now they're still at square one, going through, refining, cleaning out the community, and getting back to a culture that they want to represent.
Yeah. Michelle, thank you so much for coming today. This is your first time, obviously, at the Girls Table, but I could promise you, at least I hope, it won't be your last, because this was amazing. I think you have such a skill at taking like such difficult, challenging information and just making it really simple and easy to understand. So I just appreciate you coming on today. I'm so excited to have you at the Girls Table, and I can't wait to continue to connect and see what Mavion does, and where should people follow you if they want to get in touch with you or want to follow you along on your journey?
Absolutely. Instagram and Twitter, I am Michelle J. Reeves. And same thing on Instagram and Twitter, it's Mavion World. We're always in our DMs. We're always having events. Come say hi anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. This was so awesome. I'm so excited for the future. Thank you.
Anna. Bye.